Game Slayer episode 69. Nice.
Hmm.
Well, what's not nice is the information that we got this week and also the lack of cast members. Morgan is asleep apparently and weeping, so we're left up with three peeps. Let's get to our intros. Viper, you made it. How are you, man? What you been playing?
Uh, how's it going, people? Slithering out of my corner for a bit to join the podcast crew. I know I've been absent 2 weeks actually. I had an appointment 2 weeks ago, and I actually fell asleep last week. Won't it won't be happening again. So I've been playing Forspoken quite heavily. I've gotten a lot of the side quests and stuff done before doing the main story. I'm already level 56, and I only got the first two chapters of the story out of 8 or 9, I believe. Well, actually, there's 12 chapters, but some of them are so short they're not even worth it.
Mm.
But before that, I had Platinum Indivisible, and those are the only two games I've played in the last. Actually, I played Moss a little bit on VR. I'm playing VR like maybe once or twice a week while my daughter plays it every so often as well. But that's pretty much the extent of my gaming habit is Forspoken. A lot of Forspoken in the last week.
Gotcha. How is Forspoken? Oh, wait. Um, who's Mike Black Frost?
What are you talking about?
Black Frost is saying, "What's up, Poppin'?" Omar, turn up his mic. I'm not sure.
I don't know why everybody thinks you're low, dude. Your mic volume comes through at the same as everybody else's.
Am I low?
Bro, you're literally hitting the max green when you talk. Like
Oh, give me a
if you
second,
go
sir.
above that, it'll start to it'll be above the threshold.
What about now? Oh, I go max green. Okay, sorry, I had minimum green.
No, maximum.
Okay,
Like
then I'm good.
the measurement on OBS shows the maximum decibel before you hit the yellow, and you definitely don't want to hit the red.
Oh, okay. So I think he was talking about Viper. He was not being able to hear Viper clear.
Uh,
Viper does sound clear to me.
Viper's pretty good. Viper, count to
Oh,
three real
Like,
quick.
like 1 2 1 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're hitting the maximum green as well. Like,
Check here. Yeah, it's everything seems to be on point over here as well.
well, no,
yeah,
they would be hearing the audio via
yeah.
the
That's
OBS,
Viper. Yeah,
but
I know Black was talking about that Viper.
no, but what I'm saying is like his measurement is the same volume as your mic according to
Okay, so
OBS.
he's saying he's clear just low. Let me see if I can up it up from Discord.
You're not listening, Omar.
Yeah?
I am the
No.
one streaming. What they
Yeah.
hear is based on OBS, not you.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying Viper is at the maximum green threshold. Like if I turn it
Okay.
up anymore, he's gonna start entering the yellow, which it's gonna. I turned it up slightly, very slightly.
All right, mic check.
Yeah,
7.
see,
What about me?
he's about halfway in the yellow now, which is gonna make
Mm-hmm.
you louder. That's what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Okay. We will ring it. Nate, how are you, man? What you been playing?
no, I'm good, man. Yeah, just still trying to finish up Fire Emblem. It got pretty tough in the end. Some of the enemies are ridiculous. It's really more so the stage, not the enemies. It's the way the stage is constructed in the
Is
last
that
like three I'm getting
the one
to.
with poison?
No, this doesn't have poison. This is has a wind mechanic, um,
Mm-hmm.
in which the enemy can push you back every two skills, and it's a mess because the enemy is really strong, so you're constantly out of position because the wind. You have to either get in position so the wind doesn't push you back, or it's you'd have to see it to really understand it. But it's tough because a
Mm.
big part of obviously strategy games is positioning. So when you can't position yourself the way you really want to, it creates another layer of difficulty. Um, but yeah, that's kind of slowed me down a bit. But I'll probably end up beating it today. Um, I also played the VR for the first time this weekend. Um,
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I was really clear after I got some tips from Chris Toast because she is living in VR at this point. Um, I was explaining to her that it was uncomfortable for me to wear it, and then she explained to me like how to adjust it so that it wasn't. I had it too far forward. Um, so after that, I was able to wear it extremely comfortably. And again, shout out to PlayStation for being apparently the only VR headset in the plant on the planet that considers people that wears glasses. When they make these things, they have more than enough
Mhm.
space for my glasses in the VR without having to add anything and this, that, and the third. And they said I played Synth Riders. I played the little kayak Mirage game. I have yet to play Call of the Mountain, but I have that as well. Um,
Know about Palav? Because I heard that's another banger.
yeah, honestly, a lot of people want to kind of get people into that because obviously it's multiplayer, but honestly, it doesn't look all that interesting to me. I know
Mm.
DC's been having a ball with that, DC Gaming. Um, so the
Pavlov.
yeah, Pavlov.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pavlov. I thought Pavlov. That's what I mean.
Yeah. The oh Sanctus saw that we went live. Hey Sanctus. What's up, Black Frost? Um yeah, the like I said, Pavlov looks interesting, but I just don't know if I would get into it right now. I'm more interested in some of the more closed experiences. I know she wants the Rush of Blood sequel or whatever, where you basically ride like a horror roller coaster and shoot everything. Um, she had a ball with that one last time on the original VR, and they've come out with a new one or a sequel to Rush of Blood. Um, so definitely picking that one up. But yeah, like I said, overall it's just been fun, and of course I got to play Gran Turismo, which was that is an experience. That is definitely the experience. Riding in all the different cars, being able to look directly out the windows and see the incredible level of stitching and clarity in VR. It looks amazing. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. I definitely can't wait till, like somebody said, the previous VR had it, but I can't wait for an Ace Combat to come out and really get to go crazy with that because I don't get motion sickness. So being able to fly in Ace Combat 8, which supposedly they've been working on via VR, I know would be incredible. Um, but yeah, lastly, I beat Far Cry 5. Uh, so that was nice. I bought that day one. I had like, you know, that comes with everything edition and stuff. So it was fun to go back to that, play with a bunch of the new weapons, and played co op with Morgan. And we were up incredibly late, finally beating that. So I was excited to kind of get that out of the way and put that one in the books. Um, but yeah, also I went back to Spider-Man Miles Morales, so I might try to finish that up here shortly. Apparently, I'm not that
Mm.
far from the end. If I just kind of beeline it, which I probably will, I don't know. I enjoy the game, but yeah, I just at this point, I'm just like, why haven't I beaten it when everybody seemed to run through it in like a day?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I mean, the game still looks incredible, obviously. Um, I really, honestly, the only suit I really want is like the Daft Punk looking suit. That's like the only one that really matters to me. And
Mm.
to finish up the game, so I'll probably finish that soon, and then like gradually, I'm dwindling down the game, a bunch of the games I started. So as
Mm.
I'm finishing each
Oh,
one.
okay. So you're part of the issue of the topic we're gonna talk about. Okay, I
Oh,
see you.
absolutely not, absolutely not, because I just
Yeah,
told you a game I finished, so don't do that.
I'm
Don't do
fucking
that.
with you.
Uh huh.
Okay,
Yeah. No,
okay,
I'm not.
okay.
I'm not them people. I complete my games, which that's a,
Okay,
so yeah.
okay.
I'm definitely gonna get on those people who definitely do not, because
Yeah.
this is regards that topic regards kind of what I was explaining to someone about your backlog versus games you own. There's a difference in
Mm,
games you own versus a backlog. You actually
yeah.
require a the intent to complete, like the
Hmm.
full intent. The intent is not just, oh, I'm going to do it. Like the intent as in you have plans, you've laid it out, you know what I mean, and you are
You
going
need
to
to
complete it.
actually do it.
You need to actually
Yeah.
do it. A backlog in actual definition is a body of work yet to be completed. It
Mm,
requires that part where it says yet to be completed is the intent to complete. So
mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Gotcha.
all another thing, but we'll get into it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
people have
Yeah.
so,
You go ahead.
so many people have a backlog. Say I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna get to it. No, damn well they
They're not gonna get
two
to
two
it.
two things about VR. Hey, the kayak.
You were cutting out. You said something about the
Yeah,
kayak.
I was about to ask if it's just me or
Oh,
is
two
actually. Yeah, you're
two.
cutting in and out. I thought you're riding.
Hold up. Uh, voice setting. Cut it.
Now you seem fine.
All right, there you go. Testing 1 2. Am I good now?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, the sensitivity was up on my mic. I had to turn it down. Um,
Mm.
two things about VR. Did you stick your face under the water in the kayak,
I did
Jay?
not.
Yo, I did that shit and almost fell off the bed because I thought I was about to drown.
Oh man.
Mm.
Don't tell nobody that. And also shout out to Sick Humor TV. Even though you can wear your VR with glasses, there is a way where you can order lenses for the inside of your VR, so you don't have to wear glasses when you put them on.
That's
I did
handy.
hear about that. You can order custom lenses to your
Mm.
glasses.
The
Mm-hmm.
thing about that though is if like me and my daughter we share, and if she doesn't have the same prescription I have, so if I ordered lenses, then I gotta remember to take them out when she uses
When
them.
she uses
So
them.
Yeah.
that's the only issue that we have here with the
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did hear about that, but like honestly, as comfortable as it is with my glasses,
right.
like I'm not even worried about it. Like like I said, my main problem was how I had it on. I had it
Mhm.
sitting the back way too high. So as I lifted the back, or more so brought the back down and lifted
But
the front, and then I used the slider for the visor and brought it in, like I was good to go. There's certain things that'll never be really clear because they're on the edge of the VR,
mhm.
like they're on the edge of the thing. So like certain text when you're on like the regular menu for the PlayStation looks kind of
Yeah,
like it has like a like that
well,
like light coming off of it.
huge.
Yeah, like a
Hue.
hue.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
that's normal. That's normal because with the foveated rendering, wherever your eyes are pointing at is what's going to focus in and be clear. But you'll see in your peripherals other shit being like a little hueish.
Yep.
But that's
But once I'm in VR though, like once I'm in a game that's full VR, that's gone.
mhm.
Like everything's completely clear. Like when I played Synth Riders and looked around the city and stuff, everything was crystal clear. So,
Yeah. I only experienced that in the menus. It really wasn't during the game.
yep. Yeah, so it's been awesome.
Gotcha. As for before I go, shout out to Black Frost and shout out to Sanchez coming through. As for me, so small games. I finished a game called Little Noah. It's a not Metrovania. It's a roguelike. It got some unique gameplay mechanic. While instead of you fighting, you summon uh, almost like Avatar-esque thing, a la what's that name called? Um, I forgot about that game. Think think folklore back from the PlayStation 3 heyday. That type of summon. So basically, but these they follow you around and they're adorable and stuff like that, and it's cute, but it renders down to get the number three, that the 3-star monster enemies and obliterate them. And if you want to get the platinum, you need to beat the entire game without getting hit. So
Mm.
I'm like, that's not, or beat every single boss without getting hit.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds like what Morgan had to do for Trick to Yomi. That was not that none of that sounded fun listening to her do that.
it's the yummy, it's easy until the final boss. As someone that actually did it. But what Trek to Yomi did worse is you need to beat that game 4 times. Normal mode, hard mode, and no, 3 times. And then one shot mode.
Okay.
But here is the kicker: if you beat it on one shot mode, it doesn't count as hard mode.
Yeah,
You need to
they didn't stack
actually
it.
go back, beat it as hard mode. But I found that tedious.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
major oversight.
yeah. Um, After that, I played a game called. So I beat Little Noah. I had a blast with it. It just like I played indie game that had a more what you call it, almost like left stand on. I love it, Little Noah, but it's just so short. I knew it's gonna be short because of the amount of enemies you could recruit. If you put it next to a game like The Binding of Isaac, it's not even close. Night and day between the two.
Yeah.
And both are roguelites, so I was disappointed in that. I did buy it for cheap, what, $10 or something like that. I had a blast with it and I dropped it and I finished it, but I'm not getting the plat. Absolutely not. Um, I'm playing now a game called Chariot. You're basically two servant that is in control of a chariot that have a dead body inside, and it's a goat, and you need to take your chariot from point A to point B. That's another game I started and I have yet to finish, and I'm having a blast with it. Um, I also have Little Nightmare 2 that I want to play, and of course the big daddy of them all, One Piece Odyssey. Yet to start that, but I know what I'm expecting. Um, Talking about backlog, as someone that know for a fact this, Final Fantasy 15 is on my backlog, but I know for a fact I will never ever ever touch that game again. So that's a dead backlog. However, a game like Ni no Kuni 2, as much as I dislike it, I'm gonna restart it at some point when I will run out of game to play. So I'm gonna absolutely play that. And two, I did buy the DLC for Ni no Kuni 2, so I might as well.
Hey, Omar,
Yeah.
just so you just so you know, when it comes to backlogs and games that you play versus games that you intend to play versus games you know you're probably not going to touch, I would say as the backlog still counts as long as you are playing those games you intend to play. Like for example, for me, I know I bought Callisto Protocol. And I know I'm planning on playing it someday. Do I really think I'm going to touch that game? Not while I have 300 RPGs that are out here that I need to play first. Now, with that being said, you can I wouldn't say not procrastinate. I don't know how to explain it. Um, just know that there are games that are there that you probably won't ever touch, even though it's on the back. Let's put it this way: Hell would have to freeze over, and you would need the rest of your games. You would have to lose access to the rest of them before you would touch Final Fantasy 15 again. I guarantee you, if Final Fantasy 15 was the only game you had left, you'd play it.
I don't think I would touch it.
Seriously, if you had no other games to play,
I might, but then I will just go look for cheap game to buy and call it a day. Like, nah, for 15, it's almost like a trauma for me.
now I'm
So,
only asking because if the only thing that was left for me is first person shooters and I couldn't buy other games, let's say for example I got suspended my PlayStation account and I had to go to PC, and the only thing I got on PC are first person shooters, free to play first person shooters. I guess I'm going to be playing free to play first person shooters until I can get my games back. I got to play something, even though I hate them.
knowing you would go to PlayStation and buy whatever that exists.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I did not have that option, let's say
Oh, okay,
if my
yeah, okay, okay,
I
yeah,
can't,
got
yeah, then I'm gonna play what's available, even though I don't really want to play.
you. Got you. Shout out to Black Frost. I still go back to PlayStation 3 games. Hey, PlayStation 3 is the shit. And 15 is so ass, man. Yes, it is one of the worst Final Fantasy, but not let's go there. Let's talk about how gamers don't complete games. That goes me out that topic.
Mainly,
So
mainly,
basically,
mainly Xbox people, but you know, yeah,
choosing violence, I see.
absolutely.
So, according to Steam, only 25% of players have earned the Hero of Hogwarts achievement for completing the main story of Hogwarts Legacy. Here is the kicker though, this is not only with Hogwarts. Uh, Forbidden West just came out with a release date for the DLC, and in order to have access to the DLC, you need to have finished the main game, and apparently 30% only finished the main game. So, what's up with that?
Well,
Should developers make a smaller game or less bloated games, or what?
because I am one of the 70% that did not complete it yet, I would like to put up a defense force for the DLC. For me, the thing is, I actually prefer that my DLCs be in-game DLCs. I don't need DLCs to have access to them immediately when starting the game. I actually do want to finish the game first and then go into the DLC if possible. I know games like Assassin's Creed Origins had DLC that was ready from the rip, but I don't know why people are up in arms about that. DLC is DLC. Doesn't matter if you get to it in the beginning of the game or the end of the game. Maybe it's because they don't want to finish the game. I don't know what it is, but like I said, I would prefer my DLC to be in-game DLC, not middle of the game DLC.
Hmm. So, what about you, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a number of things, right? Because the problem with the completion percentage is anyone who started the game counts as that, right? So, like at this point, my I think about my nieces and nephews, right? There are four of them. All of them have started the game, but all of them didn't like the game, right? They're all very different. I could have told you which one of them was gonna like the game from the beginning, but they're all baby gamers basically. Still, they're all about to be teenagers, except for they're two of them are the two girls are teenagers, the one boy is about to be, and then the other one is the youngest. The youngest will definitely not like it, but he has to try whatever the big kids are playing. Um, my oldest nephew may like it, may go back to it, but if he's distracted with, his basketball goal that he got for Christmas and, you know, going on camping trips and a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of reasons why he wouldn't just fully engage to finish it. It really just depends. His attention span and stuff like that. Now, my second to youngest niece, she's most like me and Fox. Like, she delves into a story game. She sits there and she has just discovered the whole new world. She has the look in her eyes. I recognize it when you just get into a story driven game and it just clicks, and you're like, I want some more of that. What else? What other games are like this? Like, she just went full on into it. She's the one that's completed the most games, so she um completed The Last of Us Part 2, the remake. She played the remaster. She played, Assassin's Creed Odyssey was when I first introduced her kind of to this stuff. So she completed that. Like, she's full on into it. So, like, you're going to have people like that who really realize the value in the full experience, and they're going to be able to sit down and really enjoy it to the fullest. Um, but the reality is, the main problem, and this is something I mentioned a long time ago, a lot of gamers don't know themselves very well at all. So when something hits or something's a big game, and they see a bunch of people enjoying it, some people just can't help themselves but to pick it up and give it a shot, right? And that's cool, because they themselves don't know. Um, so they may run into that wall where they're just like, I'm not feeling it, or I don't quite want to finish it, or something else came out that they know they like. So in the rare instance, they know they like something and just got sidetracked. It took too long to complete the other game, didn't go back to it. Got caught up in multiplayer. Destiny expansion came out. Like, there are a bunch of reasons why I could see why someone wouldn't complete a game. Um, so, like, while we won't really do that, especially games that we are, full on, those full stop games, for a lot of us, Horizon Forbidden West was that full stop game, you know, um, stop everything I was playing. It's launch night. Let's go. Like, that's what the majority of us did when that came out. So, um, yeah, I think it's just a combination or a battle of stuff like that. Like, if you could see the completion, the completion for some of the other games, I think you'd be pretty shocked. I actually think a large portion of people, as much as Zelda Breath of the Wild is talked about, I bet you the completion rate for that game is like under 15%.
Mm.
Like, I just don't think a lot of people complete a lot of games that are even that have this major fanfare, um, which is quite obvious because a lot of PlayStation games actually have the highest completion rate. Not only do a lot of PlayStation exclusives have the highest completion rate, but even on PlayStation, it just shows that PlayStation gamers tend to have the highest completion rate even among multi-platform titles. Um,
Yeah, the most quote unquote hated game, which is The Last of Us 2, have 60% completion rate. Let that sink in.
yeah, which is totally understandable because most people going into part two for that game have played the first one. They wanted to kind of see it through to fruition, and regardless of what people feel about the story, the gameplay in that game was top tier,
Oh
third
yeah.
person. Like, they killed it. Like, you can get as crazy as you're capable of. There's a window for skill there. Obviously people have seen like Sunny Legend and them do some crazy stuff where
Oh yeah.
they're running around, throwing a Molotov, shoot it midair, slide backwards, roll off the cliff. Like I mean, you get crazy. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, people can't deny just really great gameplay at the end of the day. And I think that's why you see that. And that game is also not, it's not short, but it's also not incredibly long either. I
Mm,
think that's another thing is that a lot of people either underestimate the length of some games, um, or are just not really used to that, right? Like, I've seen some people, the battle of how long a game is comes up ton lately, right? But it's like I know for us in here, like 60 hours in a game, we call that like that's a solid middle ground. Like, oh, okay, that was just long enough. Good job. You know,
Yeah, that's what a JRPG should be.
yeah, we're like,
Uh,
but that's what I'm saying. But like most of the games that we play, it's 80 to 100 hours or more.
mhm.
So it's like for us, that's like, oh, okay, that's a solid
Okay,
purchase.
okay, yes, but then we have games like Valhalla, where it's like 200 hours, 300 hours, and yet we find that too much, right? Is it fair to
Well,
agree?
the problem with Valhalla is the way it's laid out, right? And this is again the problem that I explain with people with open world games, right? Um, Open world games have the ability to quote unquote be played wrong, uh, which is a weird thing to say, but it's why people's experiences vary so much, right? Like imagine someone who played Forbidden West and they went to the I can't remember what they're called, but they're like the only fetch quests in for Horizon Forbidden West, right? The ones where you got to go pick up all the parts or whatever and bring them back to them. I only did that once to completion because that's all you needed to do for the trophy. But if someone played the game and they go, "Oh, I got to this. I want to complete this entirely," and they don't realize that they really don't need to do it, and that's kind of like a do it if you want activity, and they just get entrenched in that, and they go from camp to camp to camp and keep doing the fetch quests. They might be like, "Man, this game is stupid. Oh, it's just a bunch of fetch quests." You see what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
they could play the
Wait,
game completely wrong.
wait, hold up. Am I the only one that did everything in one?
Well, no, I mean, I'm saying like you have to do it for the trophy, right? But you all
Uh-huh.
to completion though. There's
Yeah,
there
because you need to gather all three people, or five or six people,
yeah. So
and
there's
get that armor. Yeah,
yeah
yeah,
the
yeah.
armor. So there's the camp though. There's a bunch of different camps with the armorers or the people who are builders, the builders or whatever their names are. That and they're like, hey, can you bring me this part? Can you bring me this piece from this machine so I can basically build this armor or this weapon, right? So that because they're all in competition with each other. But you only need to do one of the quest lines to completion to get the trophy though. So I didn't do the rest. I did one or two from the other ones because I thought I needed to, and then I realized my mistake was that, oh, all I need to do is complete the one and I'm good. But I'm saying someone could run into that quest essentially first after they get out of the first town and then specifically decide, hey, I'm just going to keep doing these. And then they get bored and they stop and they go, well, this is fucking stupid. The side quests in this game suck. And then
Mm,
and then they no,
okay.
I know it sounds stupid. I know it seems ridiculous and it shouldn't because they do everything in their power to guide you along a better path even though the game is completely open world, but I have literally heard people and seen people do it. The same thing with Zero Dawn, right? I know people that beelined it through the game and didn't enjoy it. And then when I explained the game, because my niece did this, I explained the game and how she should have played it in order to get the full experience and really understand what happened. She went back, she did the side quests, interacted with a bunch more of the NPCs, got way more of the story, and she loved the game. This is what I mean. That's the
Mhm.
danger of an open world game is like you run the risk of people again, quote unquote, playing it wrong. When I say playing it wrong, I mean playing it wrong for them. Like they get to a point where they just don't like it. Now, if you just don't like it from the rip, that's fine. Which also happens, right? You have some people, like I know somebody famously was on a podcast and was like, "Oh, I didn't beat the tutorial in Forbidden West." Now that seems like the
Yeah,
most
I was
ridiculous
like,
shit on the planet to me. You started this game and you didn't finish the tutorial. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know that because people are stay lying. So he could have just been at somebody's house, ran out of time and then just whatever. But from now on, that profile that he started that on, and he doesn't have a PlayStation or whatever to play it, maybe that will forever be a non-completion. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So it's like
But
I'm just presenting a bunch of reasons
yeah,
why. So in the traditional sense, no, people should not be not completing their games. If you're playing them the way that these PlayStation, we all own our own PlayStation 5, we get and play the specific games we want to play, then no, you shouldn't be running into a ton of games you're not completing. But like I said, the larger portion of it is honestly just a lot of people just don't know themselves as gamers. And I say this as someone who's been on Twitter for over 12 years now and have seen people go through the FOMO, um, and you know when a game is hot or their friends are playing it or whatever, and they think they just gotta get it, and people have gone through tons and tons and tons of games over of course of the 12 years I've been on Twitter, where I've just seen them go through droves of games that they either don't enjoy or don't end up completing. Like it's a bigger problem than you think because we all in here, we really know the type of games that we like and thrive on. um, and this
Facts.
and this was a conversation that I had with Morgan last night because I was like, we were going back and playing Far Cry, and we both were like, oh, we love this and we love that, all the things that we were talking about, right? I can tell that we both know what we like, right? But it's actually a lot rarer than you think in gaming to know yourself entirely as a gamer. And I say that entirely because some
Um,
people have, oh, I like Souls games, but they don't know any other genre they like. Or oh, I like Souls games and I like Zelda. That like the extent of them knowing themselves as a gamer is actually very very small. Um,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. This is
and,
trust me. This is power of observation is probably my strongest suit. I'm a people watcher. I collect the
Hmm.
data. I
I'm
see
a
it.
people watcher as well. I know what you think.
well, I,
Here's the
Yeah.
thing though. Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
Viper.
one thing I can tell you this. Growing up, I grew up with a crew of about 9 people. They always played Madden and NBA Live on Genesis. That's all, or Super Nintendo, whichever one was available. They always did that, and um, I knew what I liked as games, so I would venture away from the sports. I tried some platformers. Final Fantasy VII. I saw that and was floored. Stuff like that. But then, when I go back to these guys and say, "Hey, look, have you tried to play Sonic? Have you tried to play this? Have you tried to play?" And I can tell you, out of the 9 of us, I was the only one that played many different kinds of games. The only thing they have ever done is play sports. That's it. Go to school, come home, play the sports games. That's all they've ever done. And I look at them like an old Betamax tape. I'm like, they still make you?
Yeah.
Because they still doing
Exactly.
it today.
They doing the same thing. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And to back up your point, I have the same type of people. I explained this to someone because this comes into like the whole marketing thing and stuff that people have this weird impression of, where people think the marketing deal for PlayStation actually matters, for like Call of Duty and stuff. Like I said, my friend comes over all the time. He knows I don't have an Xbox. He understands the difference because I've explained it to him that I can play Xbox stuff on my PC and stuff, and I don't really have a need for an Xbox. So he understands the redundancy of it and stuff. Even though he's super casual, but the only thing, even though he sees how PlayStation looks on my screen, some of the really cool games that I play, and he's like, "Man, this shit looks crazy. Every time I come over, you playing something crazy," and he thinks it's really dope. But at the end of the day, he falls right back into routine, and he goes, "So, you know, how hard is it for me to get a Series X? I got to play that new COD." Keep in mind, everybody thinks the marketing deal is some euphoric thing that just makes people want to play Call of Duty on PlayStation. That's what they think. So this person who is surrounded by the only next gen system he's ever even touched is my PS5 with the DualSense controller and gotten to experience all this stuff. And his question is still, so I'm gonna get that Xbox and that new COD. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, people just don't understand how ingrained some people are to a specific behavioral pattern or whatever, and no marketing deal and no whatever is going to stop them other than if something is exclusive. That's the final draw, and that's what made the difference. And this is why I say, um over the years, what kind of forced people to experience other games, like open up as a gamer, Um, and whether it takes all kinds, right? One thing that I severely underestimated was Spider-Man. Spider-Man being an amazing game brought in so many people uh, when I was in the workplace um, that would just be like, hey, what version of PlayStation should I get? Because I want to play that Spider-Man game. These were people that didn't really play. They weren't in conversations with us when uh, we were all, me and all the nerds were in the corner talking about games. Um, these were, you know, typical husbands and wives, that were like, just were not gamers. And they're like, hey, I need to get that. I want to play that. They become something transcends the game, right? It transcends gaming itself. Um, so you get those people injected into it. And like this stems further into, like, again, this is behavioral patterns as far as like playing games or getting people into games. This is another science that Microsoft keeps trying to grasp. You need to get people interested in something in the first place to even get them to even consider it, right? Like, I think I've given this example before, but I think I told you guys, about the guy that was like 50 years old. He's or 50, he was like 50, 57 or something like that. And over time, listening to me have a conversation with one or two other people in the office, he became interested in trying gaming because of me, mainly me talking about Uncharted. We were talking about an Uncharted, and he was like, "Man, this sounds incredible. Like, this sounds like something I just gotta experience. Like, you're going on this adventure in this world, and this." He's like, "It just sounds like a something just beyond the experience of a movie." Like, you got to remember, he's describing it as someone who doesn't game, right? But he knows that we're talking about a game. Um, so you get into these new things that these new gamers who come in. Now, of course, the problem is for him, right? Like I said, people who don't know themselves as gamers, right? So he's got to come in and he's got to learn the same way that we did when we were growing up, except now, he's 50 something and playing PlayStation 4 for the first time in his life. So, I mean, there's room for all those people in there, right? But that's why I said you'll run into a lot of people who are actually newer to gaming that didn't grow up with gaming the way a lot of us did, that just are unsure. And then you run into social media tropes where just a lot of people are just not honest. Um, and so they just usually they navigate it blindly, and they're just like, oh, that's hot, I'm gonna try that. Oh, that's hot, I'm gonna try that. And I've seen that even amongst some of the people who frequent some of these spaces that we've been in. And I'm like, I can tell based on the way that they blindly kind of gravitate towards whatever game everyone is kind of on, or at least a large portion of people are on around them, that they don't really know themselves entirely as a gamer outside of maybe a specific set of games. So then they kind of blindly go into this. Like, I know someone who super sounds like they're really into Octopath Traveler 2 because a ton of us around this person are playing it, and we all are loving it, right? I can tell you right now that person is not going to complete Octopath Traveler 2, even if they buy it. I could tell you that right now because I know the type of person that this individual is in general, and I know relatively the type of games that they like to play and that they've completed, and Octopath Traveler 2 is not it. So again, like I said, the science of why is just so complicated. Um, there's a billion reasons why, but I think it's a testament to show it's not about making a game really short. Uh, your best bet is to do honestly what PlayStation does, and that's make a game that's so compelling that the majority of the people who play it want to complete it.
Mm, I think your best bet is one to make it less bloated. Make the kite quest important. Take a key point. Take a take note at Ghost of Tsushima, Forbidden West, God of War. Uh, I heard Witcher 3 has them. There is also that. I don't want a fetch quest. which I complain about with Forbidden West. One side quest was so horrible, and the the reward that you got for it was so bad. I'm like, this is what you're giving me?
but
So,
but you also
but
take into account the majority of your experience in Forbidden West was filled with a lot of really good quests. So although you
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
like
like
that quest, you know that that's not the norm. But imagine
yeah,
somebody who played that quest alone and went, "Oh, these quests in this game are stupid," and
yeah,
they
yeah,
cut the game
yeah,
off.
yeah. But to be fair, in order to play that side quest, you need to be playing the game. Which again, it boggled my mind that you said that someone didn't even finish the tutorial, especially how the tutorial starts.
Oh, I know.
Like, by the way, shout out to Weave, he is here. We have time difference. We need to fix that issue. Um, I hit you up on PlayStation though. How are you, man? What you been playing?
Well, aside from that, you guys decided to do the podcast an hour later. I'm good.
You
Um,
mean earlier?
or earlier, whatever.
What
Yeah,
you been
man.
playing?
You just had to wait one more week, and I'll be fine. But whatever. Uh, I've been playing Like a Dragon Ishin, of course. But I do have to try to wrap up the story because Resident Evil 4 is burning a hole in my career.
Mm, okay,
But
okay,
yeah,
okay.
but yeah,
Then very,
I
yeah,
can't
go
stop.
ahead.
I can't stop playing Ishin because it's so good.
Um, what your thoughts on also Ishim? You're going for the plot?
No, I was initially planning to do so, but then I initially thought, oh, all the completion miss activities are not that bad. But then I figured, oh wait, there's actually uh, a completion task list, and there is an overall completion list where that's only part of, and that's insane. Now you have to get like earn a shit ton of money in gambling games. You have to get high scores in karaoke and the fucking dancing mini game. And the karaoke is maybe doable this time around, but the dancing mini game is fucking nuts. I mean, yeah, it,
Okay.
it's not made for my brain because in the higher difficulties you have to use both your face buttons and your directional buttons at the same time, and there's like two rhythm games playing in front of you on both sides of the screen, and you have to pay attention to both, and that's fucking insane. So yeah, I'm not gonna do that. So I'm
Um,
just gonna do all the side quests and story, and I'm good.
before I continue, shout out to the forgetful gamer. He said, let's be honest, most people on social media talking about games don't even play them in the first place. Yeah, but this is social media we're talking about. This is, while my focus is on actual percentage that you can see on Steam and on PlayStation. What we're talking about with is people not finishing games. Like Hogwarts Legacy, only 25% of the people finished it on Steam,
Well,
and
well,
Forbidden West only 30%. Go ahead.
as much as we love to dunk on Hogwarts Legacy,
I know you are.
25 25% is still pretty good. I think a lot of single player games don't even get that, so it's not necessarily bad. It's all relative. I mean, maybe PlayStation games have a higher completion rate. I don't know, um, but it that doesn't necessarily say much about the game itself, but more about the general tendency of people not finishing games. And I mean, it's a matter of attention span. I mean, a lot of people don't finish things. Same way people don't finish reading a book, don't finish watching a TV show or a movie. It happens. So I don't know if it's really a problem per se, because at least for game developers, it's not necessarily a problem as long as they're not, you know, paid for completion rate, which might be an issue if your game is on Game Pass and has that metric. I don't know if there is a thing like that. I certainly would never sign up for that based on the fact that the completion rate is never going to be as high as you want it to be. Um, but I don't think it's necessarily a problem for me. Of course, creatively, you would love to have people finish your game and see the ending, but economically or financially, it's only better that they, continue playing other games or switch to other games, right? You would rather have them, especially as a publisher, you don't necessarily mind that they switch, that they complete enough of it that they're satisfied with the game and potentially will buy the sequel, but not necessarily feel like they have to complete the game. And of course, that's all relative depending on what the game is. Like if the game has of course multiplayer, you can never really complete them. Single player, well, they're supposed to have end games. Single player, depending on whether it's a story heavy game, yeah, if you don't see the ending, you might miss out on something. But like it's also not necessarily uh, an absolute number, right? Because I can imagine there are going to be a lot of people who are haven't finished Forbidden West and are going to finish that now because the DLC is coming out, and they now know that they have to finish the game to play the DLC, which, by the way, is a great way to incentivize people from finishing games, because if you bring out extra content and you lock that behind you having seen the ending, then that really motivates people to actually finish the game, even if it's just finish the story and not necessarily have to do all the side content.
So I actually saw the comment, people saying, well, no, it was one person saying that DLC for Forbidden West being locked, quote unquote, behind finishing the main story will prevent many from playing it. Would you agree to that, or would you say no? It's better that they're doing that.
I personally think, look, you could argue that they could maybe make a mode where if you haven't finished the game, that you get like a pre-built character in a certain level. But I don't know that's gonna be difficult, because then you would also have to balance the game in a way that yeah, if you don't have like great equipment or anything like that, that you or all the skills at the highest level, that you wouldn't be bothered by that and be able to play it. But I'd say that's up to developers. I think personally think it's a great idea, because I mean, first of all, like for most of us in this podcast, I don't know if Viper's finished in the meantime, but I mean that's not an issue. I mean, we finish our game, so we are not bothered by that. And the fact is that because they've decided that it's not going to be like, I think with Frozen Wilds, you had to reach a certain point in the game, but it's pretty early on, but you didn't have to finish the game, and it also means that whatever content there is, though I think they did sort of change some certain dialogue depending on whether you finish the game or not. But uh, you know, essentially the core of that DLC, of that expansion, cannot basically contain anything that cannot take place before the ending of the game, right? So, and with this, you clearly say, okay, yeah, no, we know everything has happened, so there might indeed be some setup for part 3. So actually, I'm excited for this, because this means that it might not be like with Frozen Wilds. It was great, but also it felt like sort of like a mini sort of retelling of the main story. Like it had a rogue AI, just like Hades, and essentially was sort of like the same thing basically, but in sort of smaller contained area. And this might potentially be something much more, like much bigger, of a much larger scale, much more significant. So I'd welcome that. And yeah, as for people, like, yeah, sure. And in a literal sense, people, yeah, if you that haven't finished the game are not able to play this game without finishing the game. But yeah, like I said, the other hand, it motivates people to, oh yeah, I didn't finish the game, let's go back to it. I have the time now. They have announced it a few weeks ahead of time, so let's go back in, finish the game, so I can play DLC. And sure, there will probably be some people who won't, but on the other hand, like, you know, if you only finish the game like 25% or the story 25%, what are the odds that you will actually buy DLC? Right? I mean, unless there are of course people like me, like Viper, who I suppose need to uh, will buy a lot of stuff, and we might buy a lot of things that we don't play right away. Um, but and there certainly might be people who will decide to buy the game even without finishing the main game, or you'll see without finishing the main game, because that's they can help themselves. But I'd say, if you haven't finished the game, if or at least not close to finishing the game, yeah, what are the odds that you would actually buy a DLC that takes place after the game, like the main story of the game? I don't really see the problem there. I think they've done their homework, they've done their math, and they realize like it's not gonna significantly affect it. It might actually increase sort of maybe the hype for it, that it's going to be something significant to the story. And I think it's calculated as well. Like I said, people will now hopping back in and trying to finish the game. Like they might, and even some people might buy the game just because, like same way like people were buying The Last of Us but of the show. Like there's something related to that game coming out. You are literally telling people we will have to finish that game to be able to enjoy this. Well, that might also, we might see a small or bigger uptake in the sales of Forbidden West because of this DLC. So I'm not worried about it. I don't think they made a mistake or anything. I think they've done their due diligence and they've decided this is the way to go.
Hmm. I actually think that making it where you need to finish the game better, because now I know for a fact I'm getting new story content
Hmm.
that's past the main game. And I have the feeling that this story content is gonna be relevant and not just story for the sake of story, get me?
Yes, that's what I said. I think with the DLC for the first game, they played it really safe, but also
Yeah,
couldn't really go anywhere. And here they deliberately chose, okay, this is post game, so we can do, we're not bound by avoiding spoiling the ending for people because it's supposed to be playable before the ending. They can do whatever the fuck they want, so they don't have to carefully thread about who lives, who dies, that kind of thing. The only
mm,
thing I'm wondering is, we know the voice actor of Silence is passing. What they're going to do with that, I assume there's going to be some sort of tribute, but like narratively wise, that's going to be interesting. I don't know, maybe because that's also a possibility. Because the way, because he's in it clearly, and I don't think he's just going to be in it to be at your base and just have a few dialogue options. I assume he's going to have a significant part in it. Who
oh yeah,
knows?
for sure. The
Maybe
question is how you're
this was
gonna do
already,
it then.
yeah, but maybe, who knows? Maybe this is already the end of the journey for Silence. We don't know. It could be that heavy, right? It could be that big.
That would be almost like poetic, cause he died and then in the same breath, this is his end. Or maybe, hey, I'm curious how they're gonna do it.
Mm. Well, I don't expect it to be honest because I think that because he was such a well-known actor that they probably figured like it would be way better to just keep him around for the third game. Um, but I don't know. I mean, if they could have taken some notes from Naughty Dogs, I'd like, yeah, look, we don't care how popular the character is. If it feels right, if the story is right, we might actually do that because that would be that. I mean, I'd say was always that distinct possibility considering the hubris he had, right? The things that he did and like it would be poetic for a character that in the end he might sacrifice himself for others while having been so selfish and concerned with his own survival, no matter what, uh, all this time. So I don't know. I mean, that could be a possible ending for the character. And maybe that comes sooner than later because the the Burning Shores is not going to be just a forgettable DLC. It might be significant, might be just Horizon 2.5.
Gotcha, gotcha. Shout out to Star. Um, Going to. Anyone have anything else to say about this topic?
No,
Going once,
I think
twice,
we nailed it,
right?
Don.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I when I put out the topic for today, I think there were two, right? Activision deal and then gamers not finishing games. Let me go check very quick because I'm not sure if there is another topic before the whole Activision deal. Because real talk, as much as I don't want to talk about it, it is important now to talk about it. Um,
Well,
Give me.
while you look that up, let's have a public service announcement.
What?
So we're gonna have a
Oh
public
boy.
service announcement while you go look.
Uh,
So public
oh,
service announcement about gaming Twitter, because everybody that frequents our show or listens to the show at some point is probably in gaming Twitter. Let's have a conversation for a moment because some of these people and their lack of their lack of inability to take responsibility for their own actions in the way that they curate or conduct themselves on Twitter is hilarious. Twitter is a place in which you curate exactly what you want to see and what you don't want to see. If you do not like Twitter or if you are having the worst time on the planet, there are multiple ways to get around that. You can quit, you could turn the app off, you could delete it, you could deactivate the account and it'll never exist again so long as you live. You can also curate and actually take time and responsibility for your account and, associate with people you actually like or that, share the views or values that you want coming across your timeline and not
mute and
complain.
block button exists, right? Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
last time I checked.
Hey, and
Absolutely.
they
Hmm.
on my nerves when people put a public service announcement on Twitter saying, "If you don't like what I see, just block me." I'm like, why don't you fucking do the blocking?
They could do that too. Exactly. Like
Why
it's
are you
just
requesting other people block you? You block them.
I just keep seeing these people come across my timeline. It's specifically in gaming Twitter or people agreeing with these takes where people are like, everybody hates me, nobody likes me, everybody's just talking shit about me. No, actually they don't. Most people don't know you. Most people don't probably even care, or even know that you exist. Um, and largely, the problem you have with the gaming Twitter specifically is that you showed up and decided to fuck with the wrong crowd, and you made your bed and now you don't want to lay in it. When it,
Okay, so hold up 1 second, and more important news. Shout out to Ice Cream Gaming, but also more importantly, shout out to fucking Kofi. What's up, man? Here's the thing, though, Nate. I feel you, but I'm lost. I'm lost because I have no fucking idea what's going on.
Oh no, it's a
What
public
did I
service. It's
miss?
called a public service announcement. No, I've seen
Yeah,
this
I
too. I've
feel
seen
you,
this
but
too. No, no, no. I've seen this too much. This is not a specific person. These are multiple people, and
okay, cause
I'm no. Don't even go there because I don't want you bringing up nobody specific because
no,
it's
no, no,
not.
no. I'm not talking. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just confused if something happened with Twitter while I was gone. Cause that's
No,
it.
no.
'Cause I had no
I'm
idea
good.
what's happening.
I put out my own experience on Twitter earlier. I tweeted about it. My experience on
Uh
Twitter
huh.
is lovely. I've met a lot of really great and amazing people that share, you know, a lot of great views, even dissenting or different opinions about gaming, anime, and technology. Like I have no problem having conversations with people who have difference of opinion. Funny enough, a lot of Xbox fans have recently followed me, and I'm like, look, you keep it cordial. We can agree to disagree. How we'll agree on some things, and it's all good. Like no one cares that you play Xbox. You know, um, look, you
No
just
one
got
is
it.
there to hurt you. Not so far I know.
That's what I'm saying. Like no one cares about all this stuff. Like these people, all these fake reasons people make up why people don't like them, and this, that, and the third. And it's like no, your whole entire perception on Twitter is based on the way that you conducted yourself, and you've come into this thing in this bad or negative light. And it's like sometimes take some self reflection and stop trying to blame everyone else for your bad experience. I've been on this app longer than almost any other account that I've come across in gaming Twitter. I've been on here for like 12 years, right? I'm not in no drama. I'm not fighting with nobody. You know what I'm saying? And if people show up in my timeline on some nonsense, I'm going to block you. You could disagree with me. That's different. If you're going to bring something, to the table to have an actual conversation or a point of argument, I have no problem. I've had complete and utter disagreements, 100%, like 20 tweets long with people, and then they follow me because they're trying to actually have a conversation. As long as we're trying to actually have a conversation and you're not just bringing some nonsense to the table, cool. Another part of this PSA, stop using the word capping incorrectly. Capping is not people bullshitting. Capping is telling someone they are lying. People are not lying. Stop misusing the damn word capping. I know some of y'all get excited and you hear certain people use this word in spaces and you're like, "Ooh, I like that." And you think that, the word capping means this or that. No, you're telling people they are lying. Stop telling people they're capping for this or capping for that because they are not lying. That is their experience. That is how they feel about something. So no, they are not lying. Just because you disagree with it does not mean that person is lying. That is what that word means. Stop using it incorrectly and you know who you are. Sick of that shit.
Okay, but Nate, this is Twitter we're talking about.
Oh, I know.
People gonna be on some fuck shit all the time.
No, 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 no. I mean, I know. It's just it's a moment where we're speaking within the grounds of this, but like none of us do it. So I know people are perfectly capable of not doing it. So it's
But
just recent
uh,
annoyances.
but again, this is Twitter where you're talking about how you love pancake and people say, "Oh, you hate waffles."
Well, no, but
Like
this is why I said this is gaming Twitter specifically. I'm talking about. So
even worse, even
yeah.
worse. But okay, fine.
Oh no,
Okay,
sports Twitter's worse. Trust me.
okay, yeah. Welcome to Twitter. You you do you. If you truly are having an issue with Twitter, like one, block people. I have blocked. No, I've blocked. I've muted so many people because I don't care what they say. They're not part of my inner circle. They do them.
Exactly.
But I don't want that information on my feed. Simple.
But see, you don't dislike or hate that person, right? You just don't want it on your feet. That's another problem people or misconception people have. Like
Why would
all
I hate a person on Twitter that I don't know?
that's what I'm saying though. This is a misconception of self-reflection that these people have where they think, well, all these people don't like me, all these people hate me, all these people no, these people don't know you and they don't care. That's it.
I think people put way too much credit in in social media thread. Like, I know people that started their account all over again just because they were too big
Yeah,
and they
I've seen
wanted to
that.
be small.
I've seen that multiple times, and that was super weird to me. I don't care if 40,000 people follow me right now. I'm still just gonna be me.
Yeah, it's like just because I have 1,000 or maybe 10, or if I have 10,000 doesn't mean I'm gonna act all of a sudden differently. Like, nah. If
Exactly.
which is weird for me, but hey, you do you. If that's what makes you happy, if Twitter can't make you happy, then have at it, I guess.
Yeah, man. It's just it's been a
Okay.
general, like I said, lack of responsibility from a lot of people, just not being responsible for conducting their own experiences. And it's just is what it is. But what's the next topic? Go for it.
Oh man. Next topic. Microsoft got caught lying again. So here's the thing. I want to talk about the whole TMA thing because I'm baffled, and we talked about it off air. Um, but how the fuck does the CMA say what they say after literally us just finding out that not only there was a cut version of Hi-Fi Rush, there is a cut version of
Redfall.
Starfield, and there is also a cut version of Redfall. So how? So the masses ain't massing, dude. I'm confused. I I truly believe that CMA was doing their homework when they said even if you give Call of Duty for 3,000 till 3,000, and now and and that's not even worse. The worst part is Microsoft want PlayStation to create a rival to Call of Duty in 10 years. So if that doesn't show you that they're gonna take away Call of Duty, then how the fuck you were elected? Like, I'm sorry, you're too brain dead or you're bot. Like, look, it's very simple. I don't care about the deal. What I care about is the precedent that it has been setting. And since now the deal almost like 90% going through, I'm all for it. Let the world burn now. I want PlayStation to pick up every single publisher. Hey, sue me. Action, reaction. What's up? Nate, go for it.
I mean, honestly, I don't really know. I guess where this weird decision came from. Um, I mean, honestly, I think it's a weird place of ignorance to be coming from
It doesn't
after
make sense
they seem
though.
to they seem to understand the issue, and then all of a sudden they were just like, oh, it's not an issue. And it's
Yeah.
like that doesn't really make any sense. It's like your entire argument was that you understood that this could potentially cause a shift or an imbalance in competition, and now you're saying you don't think it will because you don't think that they don't have a quote unquote the same phrasing on top of that, a quote unquote incentive to remove Call of Duty from PlayStation because it would cost them too much money basically.
But how do you get that information when we literally just covered to this week? Like, this is the craziest part. This is literally this week information. How do you put out an edit that says, "Oh, we don't believe that they're gonna remove Call of Duty," when literally Microsoft is saying we want PlayStation to build a rival to Call of Duty in 10 years?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean that quote already is obviously uh I mean,
misleading.
they're stating it seriously, but it honestly should be hyperbole because obviously anyone who understands the reign that Call of Duty has had understands that, you know, since Call of Duty 4, Call of Duty has been unstoppable. Um, people, I've heard arguments like, oh, well, you got to start and you got to get this and that. And I'm like, no, none of those arguments work. One of the ones I kept hearing was like, well, they didn't start, really popular. I'm like, no, Call of Duty's been fairly popular from the beginning, since PlayStation 1. So,
Wasn't Battlefield more popular back then?
I mean, Battlefield has had its time where it was decently popular or comparable, um, but that stems from the issue that they tried to present, which is you need to start a franchise and then it could get popular. So I'm like, okay, so you're talking about years and years and years and a maybe, like, is what you're stating, and then that immediately is debunked because there are other franchises that have been going just as long, if not longer, than Call of Duty, and have still failed to garner even a 20% of the fan base that plays Call of Duty. So this whole, just build it and they will come, make it better year over year. It takes time. It is no, it doesn't. Call of Duty is a fucking phenomenon, bro. We need to stop this whole it's just another game. It's not, dude. Call of Duty has literally exceeded the game itself. Most people who play Call of Duty do not actually like it. Like, but it is the definitive de facto game that you can depend on for a majority of people who are going to pick up a system that are going to just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get COD."
It's almost like an addiction.
Well, exactly. Like, people can't stop themselves, right? Like I said, for the longest, even for myself, and I'm speaking from someone who did it, not this outside person who didn't play Call of Duty. I was one of the first people to be like, I don't really play competitive games, and I played Modern Warfare 2. I've got more time in Modern Warfare 2 than probably anybody I know. I wish you could actually still see the stats. I wish they didn't get rid of the old stats and they just kept them, because I had I had probably like 180 days or something in Modern Warfare 2. The amount of time I played it almost nonstop, it was insane. And I was one of the biggest detractors of playing competitive games, and I played it to block out Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3 and 4, and Modern Warfare 3. Those are the only ones I liked. And a couple times after that I bought COD, I bought Ghost and some of the other ones that I didn't really like, right? Because the hope was that this one's gonna be as good as the ones I liked. And then I did it maybe one more time, and then for like 4 or 5 years, I didn't buy Call of Duty, right? And the only reason, and this was a trend. I wasn't the only one doing this. There were year over year, COD was selling less and less and less, right? So what did they finally do with this one that came out? They come out with the Modern Warfare 2 remake, right? So they say, right? But it's not. It's honestly, it's only a remake in name only.
Is it a remaster?
No, no. When I say it's a remake in name only, there's nothing remade about it. Like, Ghost is in it. You know what I'm saying? The story differs like a ton. Like, it's not actually a remake. Like, it just has the name. That's the problem. Like, they promised it like it was like, hey, we're going to bring that game back and update it to current day. That's not what they did. It's not Resident Evil 4 or Resident Evil 2 and 3. It's not like
Yeah,
that. It's just the
they
next
financed
modern.
you guys.
They
They
finessed they
financed you
Yeah,
guys.
they finessed everybody. It's just a new Call of Duty, a new modern Call of Duty with the name Modern Warfare 2 remake on it. But the
Ah, damn.
but that's not what it actually is. So the game has none of the original maps. It's a bunch of bullshit. The way the gameplay mechanics work, the way the perks work in the multiplayer, none of that shit is the same. That is what I was excited for, and that's why I had jumped in. And that's why all of a sudden you see this big resurgence, right? In Call of Duty sales. For the first time, they broke a bunch of records and all this, that, and the third, because a bunch of people were like, yo, they're bringing it back. And then, of course, they finessed everybody. So most likely you'll see the next Call of Duty, and this is the real reason why they announced that they weren't bringing another one next year. It's not because they can't. It's because they see the resurgence that this one had, and they're trying to capitalize on it. while also giving the team more time. That's what's actually happening. They sold more than they ever have in the past 3 or 4 COD iterations because they promised a remake. Um, so that's why I said it's much deeper than that. Like when I've played it, that's why this was such a big thing for me, right? Because I have played it. I have been a part of that world and stuff like that. So I understand how big it is. Can Call of Duty eventually fail if they continue to ignore it? Yeah, I mean ultimately they don't really have many franchises to pull that, that finesse on anymore, to just be like, oh yeah, Black Ops 1 remake or something. Like people have already found the finesse, right? So the next Call of Duty, whenever that does finally come out, it must stand on its own, right? And it's going to sell crazy, but to them, right? Like people need to understand Call of Duty not selling well is like, you're talking about like a 30 million sales drop, right? And it will still sell a ton of copies, but that's not good enough for them, right? If I'm
Oh
used
yeah.
to selling 100 million copies and I sell 35 million, yes, I made hand over fist money, right? I still made a lot of money, but that is a mega drop in my prior
Mm.
performance, right? And that I promise you that if the next COD is not as good as it needs to be, that is exactly what is going to happen. So, you know, year over year, yeah, people might be right, right? COD might truly decline, but the time that it takes for a phenomenon like that to decline is immeasurable, right? Um, it's unlike anything you've ever seen, right? And I explain this with another phenomenon because people think that this is very common. It's not, right? Um, Another phenomenon that was kind of the unstoppable force, which honestly kind of stifled the actual genre, was World of Warcraft. Um, World of Warcraft, again, is a game that is bigger than the genre itself. It exceeded its own success. Like the game's name is bigger than the game. Um, like,
Mm,
not,
for
I'm
the
not.
longest, I never believed it would be uh, stumped over, but Final Fantasy 13, 12 is doing it,
No, Final Fantasy
or
14.
14.
Final Fantasy 14 is giving it decent competition, right? For the first time in over 20 years. You got to remember that. But the problem is that World of Warcraft still hasn't gone anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like they had a slump. And let me explain again. The slump for them is we went from 250 million subscribers to 135 million. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's the slump for them. So yes, while that is the big difference. Unlike COD has never had a competitor. Not in a sense of player base, right? Um, but it took over 20 years for World of Warcraft to even get one, to the point where Blizzard was actually working on a new MMO. They canceled it because they were afraid that they couldn't garner the same success with a new MMO, even if it was better in every conceivable way. You know why? Because it doesn't have the name. It's not World of Warcraft. You already have all these people entrenched who don't want to leave it, who are literally build their whole identities around it. Like I said, I'm not talking about people who play games the way that we do. I know people, like I said, that have bought $3,000 computers for the sole purpose to play World of Warcraft. That's it.
Mhm.
That's it. Nothing else. Not for work, not for nothing. Just to log on and play World of Warcraft at a higher FPS. That is it. They don't play any other games. They don't play solitaire on that bitch. They don't do nothing else. They don't take conference calls, nothing. It is literally built to play World of Warcraft. That is the kind of phenomenon that I'm talking about. And you know who happens to be in, it's kind of funny that they happen to be in the same company that Microsoft is trying to purchase. So this company has two of the biggest phenomenons in all of gaming entertainment history. And make no mistake, World of Warcraft is still very much popular to this day. Do I get it? No. I think that game is ugly as fuck and it stifled any progression in the MMO genre, which is a big reason why I stopped playing years and years ago now. Because everything got stuck with World of Warcraft. And the other thing that they did, that guess what? Guess who else does it? Call of Duty. When someone comes out with a good idea, they take it, They incorporate it into their game and they call it something else because the game just needs to add it because they can't create a different game. Why create a different game when I can just steal your idea and put it in my popular game, do it maybe just like you, but it'll be more popular because I did it. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So all these things, and I witnessed this over the years. This isn't like some side. This isn't reporting from a journalist. These are things I factually know. Um, there were multiple MMOs that came out over the years that had all these different great ideas, and then I watched Blizzard make announcements for very similar systems that they were adding to World of Warcraft. The transmog system is something they stole. There was, there, which of course you see in a bunch of games now, right? But that was something that was heavily in MMOs for a while, and another came out with that certain teleportation systems and all kinds of cool stuff that new MMOs were trying to do, that were trying to break in. And like I said, World of Warcraft would just steal it. What became big while Call of Duty was a thing, right? Call of Duty still has its typical multiplayer, right? But Battle Royale became a thing. What did Call of Duty do? They made a Battle Royale and just threw it out there and made it free on the side and took it and made their own version. That's what I'm talking about. Like, you can't just usurp these games, right? The only thing that can really stop COD is itself. It has to kill itself, basically. That's the thing.
Okay. Um. So, what do you think? No, 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 no. That's for a different topic. Um. Okay, I'm gonna get back to you. Before I do so, good night to Ice Queen. Shout out to her. Weeb, what's your thought on CMA tone shift?
Is
And do you
is
think
there is there any more information on that, or just the Twitter
no?
report?
It
So the
just
so the
it
only thing that they stated, Weeb, was that they now changed their stance and from saying that it would basically the deal could potentially cause a major shift in the competitive environment. And now they say they do not believe that the deal going through would cause a shift in the competitive environment because they do not believe that Microsoft has an incentive to remove Call of Duty from other competing platforms because they would lose too much money. That's what they really stated.
All right. Yeah, look, I don't know that it's possible there might be some political pressure there, or something happened behind the scenes that we're not privy of. But still, like we've been saying, and like they correctly conclude themselves, there's absolutely no reason to trust Microsoft on not making that decision. Um, but we'll see. And plus, like I also said to you guys in the chat, like it's not over until the fat lady sings, and you know uh, we still have that lawsuit. In the FTC is still suing Microsoft. That's still going on. You know, I'm not saying that means that's a sure thing, but you don't sue somebody when you're still considering whether or not they are violating antitrust laws. No, the FTC has concluded they're violating antitrust laws, and they're suing them to prevent the merger from going through. And if that lawsuit succeeds, then it doesn't matter what the CMA decides or the EU decides. Deal's dead because that's their biggest market. Um, what are the odds that's going to go through? I don't know. I mean, uh, even if there's a judge involved, that's still political. There's still a chance that there's going to be pressure, and they might weigh in the decision of the CMA and the EU that to not object to it and say, well, what's we don't think you have a great case or whatever. But again, the FTC has also successfully sued companies and I think they like with Nvidia, which was also what Microsoft actually was lobbying against, and successfully. Uh, that would have an acquisition would have given them an incredible foothold or credible competitive position in the market. So I mean, it's not a done deal yet. But yeah, pretty sure that Sony's getting nervous, at least to the extent that they were hoping the deal wouldn't go through. That being said, like they're playing the game, right? I mean, people we're all in uproar for some fucking reason that they were surprised that a competitor doesn't want their competitor from getting a larger market share and getting control over a popular third-party IP that they earn a lot of money off. I mean, yeah, people were really losing their common sense about this, and they're just doing whatever they need to do. Like, if this deal goes through, they still need Sony. They're still going to give Sony the deal because if they don't, they probably will be part of the the allowance for them to continue the deal. Plus, it doesn't like it like the same thing like I said with Nvidia. Yeah, now they're giving them a deal, an Activision deal to put Call of Duty on their streaming service. Like, yeah, so this is nothing personal. Despite what fanboys think it is, it's not personal. So there's not going to be any consequences for the relationship between Activision and Microsoft and Sony. But yeah, if this deal goes through, and again, well, this may make it more likely. It's still not a done deal. They still will have Call of Duty and with parity, and they won't get fucked over in the short term. But yeah, they will have to draft up, and I don't say draft up. They probably already have their plans ready. I mean, I think that's the entire reason why they bought Bungie. That they were anticipating that, and they were looking for. Okay, we need to have our own competitor, and I think that's sort of they're going already all in to make something similar. And I know it's not going to be easy to make something that's comparable to Call of Duty, and probably never will. But I'd say for me, it's always looked more like a sort of piecemeal strategy where you say, okay, look, we're not going to try to go all in and try to make something that's equal to Call of Duty, but rather, okay, if we can get we can want to get our parity deal or exclusivity deals and with exclusive content, and there's a risk that Call of Duty might go, or they might have an advantage because they're going to put it on their streaming service and we can't. They will have other stuff, right? Their own first parties, their third party deals, but also their own internal studios like Bungie, and they probably will acquire other studios. And like I said, I think they most
That's a
definitely are on
that's a
top.
topic for after that, but
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
know. Yeah, no, but it's definitely let's say related to the bigger picture. They definitely have they definitely have been in talks with these publishers that they might want to acquire. I say that probably their strategy is not going to be, like I said, to make a direct competitor of Call of Duty, but make several games that gonna have their own, carve out their own fan base that are popular in their own way, where you essentially cannot get around getting a PlayStation because you will miss out on too many games. And even if you are, the type of gamer that only plays one type of game, uh, all of these gamers collectively will create a certain critical mass, and it will ensure the PlayStation will remain relevant. Plus, the fact Microsoft has a tendency to fuck everything up, so it would like it wouldn't be the first franchise that dies, right? I mean, sure, I don't see it happening anytime soon, but I mean, stranger things have happened. There were franchises in the past that were you could not imagine them ever disappearing, and they have disappeared. So, I mean, it could happen, but and like I said, I'm still holding on fact that there might still be a way it's going to get blocked due to the lawsuit with the FTC. So I'm not going to immediately, jump to any conclusions, but I'm sure they have, you know, uh, have their plans in motion and have the strategy ready to deal with it. But still, ideal outcome would be that it still gets blocked and we put a stop to this consolidation strategy because, yeah, like you also said, Sony's going to buy a publisher. All bets are off. Everybody can do whatever the fuck they want because nothing is apparently enough to to have these regulators step in and say, well, at least except for the FTC, say, well, enough is enough.
And I agree with you there. That's the real problem that a lot of people don't see is just like because and ultimately mainly because a lot of these people are short-sighted or just really young and they literally have no understanding about this stuff in the first place, right? Um,
Mm.
so they're like, yeah, buy it all, go crazy. I want Game Pass, everything in Game Pass day one, and I'll be a happy person. And it's like, no, you definitely do not want a future where in which Microsoft has control of the industry in a vice the way that they do the operating system for um for Windows. Like I promise you don't want that, but that's because people don't understand what they're asking for. They don't understand what they're talking about. So it's like it doesn't surprise me that some people are on this whimsical, well, that just means I get access to all these games for, $14.99 or whatever for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna be okay with that. And they think it's just this really simplistic plan, and it's like, no, you're going to be grounded into dust the same way your ISP charges you whatever the hell they want, the same way some ISPs charge you for going over a certain data cap, and then at the same time, the ISP from your friend down the street doesn't charge them anything. You know what I mean? You're gonna run into scenarios where you're just into these
Yep.
hard binding one of two choices, and that's where we're gonna be. And it's right now, yeah, it's like the gaming industry is that open market, right? And don't get me wrong, like the saving grace from all this could be a large portion of these companies that they buy, they end up losing the core talent, and a lot of these people go off and make their own stuff and become successful third party studios, and we kind of get like a soft reset to the industry. Um, so outside of them owning these IPs, it's kind of hollow because you lose the talent, right? It's kind of like it's funny that Craig mentioned in the chat everybody should play Mass Effect, and I agree they should. But that's kind of a very pressing thing to what I'm talking about because the team behind Mass Effect, BioWare, is not the team that
Yeah.
created Mass Effect, the original trilogy. All the founders, the founding people, um, the main founders themselves are gone. Um, the people who are responsible for Dragon Age Origin and Knights of the Old Republic and all this stuff. So it's like that company could potentially you know build off the legacy and do well, but the reality is you don't know. They're not the company you've known them to be anymore because they're a fraction or a completely different entity or company than they used to be. So this it's almost like the company was reset, you know what I mean? Like this whoever is there now has to prove that they're capable of standing up to the legacy of that company, but they are not the company. Um, so, I mean, I think that that's probably the biggest thing for me that I've seen that's kind of given me confidence in the industry. A lot of the veterans leaving and creating their own studios and not just creating indie titles, but, gaining the backing of, for major AAA games and stuff like that. So, it looks like, it's going to balance itself out one way or another, whether, they buy up stuff like crazy or not. Um, like I said, like I said, I don't want the quote unquote acquisition war. But at
It's
this,
over. I disagree with Weeb. I think the deal is going through now
well, I mean,
because
but
CMA.
you can't disagree with Weeb because what Weeb said is a fact. You
Oh
disagree.
yeah,
You
but
did.
here,
Wait, hold on. He said a fact though. You can say I think the deal is gonna go through, but you can't state a fact that it is because it's factually not over. Is what we've is all we've said. He
Oh yeah,
didn't.
yeah, yeah,
It's not
I
an
got it.
opinion.
I disagree in the sense of I don't believe the FTC is going to be an obstacle for Microsoft. That's what I
Maybe,
disagree
maybe
with.
not. You know, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna explain to you the way the system works here. The way the system works here is it could take one judge to say, you know, fuck Microsoft, and the deal wouldn't go through. So that's how fragile that is still. So, you know, maybe they get through, maybe they don't, but I'm just saying that's how fragile it still is. It's not over. Like
Mm-hmm.
I know Xbox dudes want to celebrate and go crazy, you know, pop bottles and champagne and shoot fireworks, but we definitely not there yet. Um, it is very much still extremely tentative, despite whatever, you know, the CMA said. And it's just, you know, it just is what it is. I think the more important thing now though is that, yeah, what does happen when the if the deal does ultimately go through? How does it go through? What are the concessions being made if that does happen? And the key is what happens after that, right? But I think the one thing that people have said, what could you tell PlayStation about purchasing someone after you let that go through? Like you
Mhm.
can't, like, what could you say? Like, there's no defense against, you know, okay, you just let this company purchase ZeniMax Studios among like 12 other studios prior, and then the biggest acquisition in entertainment history, and you're gonna tell me I can't buy this, you know, $9 billion company? Like, are you serious? Like, so I think that's the one thing that's gonna come out of this, where PlayStation is basically just gonna get a free pass for whatever their next acquisition is, as they should, because obviously, like, it'd be ridiculous for them not to. Like, you, like, it's like you letting one of your children, you know, eat cake after bed every night and telling the other kid they can't. You know, it's like, no, it's gonna
Yeah,
ruin your appetite for breakfast or something. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what were you saying, Weave?
Mm. Go ahead,
no,
Weeb.
I was agreeing with you
Oh, okay,
that
cool, cool.
there is absolutely no way they can then block anything Sony does.
Exactly.
Viper, you've been quiet. Go ahead.
Yeah. Is the deal done? Is it over?
No.
No.
Okay, I got nothing to say then.
There you go.
That's simple. Until it's over, then I'll have something to say. But I'm
Say
tired
some.
of it.
Okay, let's say it is over. Cause I wanna go there. Go ahead.
Well, if it's over, it doesn't affect me because I don't play I don't play anything. Now it's a different story if it's Kimco or Square Enix and and Microsoft got a hold of them. Then yeah, I'm gonna throw a fit. I'm gonna cuss. I'm gonna do all kinds of shit because a company that I love is gonna go down the drain. But it's a company I don't care for. So
I will say
You.
the only way it might affect you though is
what?
a recent game you discovered a love for,
Yeah.
which
Yes,
is
I know.
which
And
is
actually,
Diablo.
I'm actually playing with Social Destruct probably in about 35 minutes because he asked me to play a little bit later.
Hmm.
And yes, I did pre-order it. I pre-ordered it late, so I didn't get the early beta access.
Yeah.
But yes. But the thing is, I just recently discovered it, so I don't have any emotional attachment.
No,
I could
no,
just as
I feel you.
easily
And
so.
ultimately, like I said, that won't be as slow as Blizzard develops games. We'll be lucky if we see the next one in 8 years. So trust me, by the time it matters, you probably won't care. Or you'll have your gaming PC by then, so you still won't care. So
Okay.
Oh, I'm
Um.
wait. I'm really close to pulling the trigger on that. I think in about 2 months. See, I got medical bills that jumped in the way now, so I had to put some shit aside. I was supposed to have it by now, but I'm looking at June now.
nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um. Going back to you, Nate. What will PlayStation do now?
I mean, I don't think it's what they'll do now. I think it's what they're already doing. I think that's the key thing, right? Um, they've already put a ton of things in motion that we just haven't seen. Like I said, there's the the one studio with a bunch of people from Call of Duty that they put together. Um,
Deviation
yeah,
Games.
Deviation Games. You've got Haven Studios working on some stuff. You've got, they acquired Bungie, who, while working on their own projects, will be able to assist in other understandings of live services and potential FPS games. And make no mistake, one thing I will give um, Bungie, they are the kings in it. You have to know what this means if you play FPSs. Um, but they are the undisputed champion and kings of gunplay. Um, Gunplay is basically the way it feels when you move around and aim in the gun. Um, Nothing feels better or smoother in an FPS competitively than playing Destiny. Like the prop,
I was about to say not
yeah.
even Borderlands, because Borderlands some
No,
great
no,
gunplay.
no. But Borderlands is not competitive though.
No, it's not. That
Yeah,
when you said that competitive part, that one was over.
yeah. That trust me, it's a very very different beast. Uh, Borderlands does it great for PVE, but so do they for PVE. The main problem and the biggest thing that funny enough, stops Destiny from expanding beyond its player base is with that great gunplay comes the caveat of the powers in the game, right? So I know some people who really, really love great gunplay and they liked the idea behind Destiny and stuff. But when you're shooting someone in the face and you should have got the kill and they just activate a superpower and smack you in the face,
Yeah.
like that's annoying. That's not competitive gunplay at that point. Now there's other systems at play that basically either lack skill or is like it's a super to get in your way. You know what I mean? Like it's a cheat. You're on a 12 kill streak, and this person that's 0 and 12, you know, hit the R1 plus L1 and supered your ass, and ended your kill streak. Like that's annoying. So
Mhm.
that's kind of something that's gotten in the way. Like you either love it or you hate it. But that's part of what's limited Destiny's reach as opposed to like Call of Duty. Um, which thrives on gunplay or used to. That's kind of something that's been an issue for them lately, is where they've promoted camping too much with claymores and a bunch of other stuff that basically change the pacing and the structure of the game. So they're running into issues of their own, where again the gun, it's called a first person shooter first and foremost, right? So shooting the other person should be the primary means of getting things done. When your game starts to lack that, or that starts to become an issue, that's kind of where a lot of people are now. um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think PlayStation is in full swing, kind of knowing what they're gonna go for. um, I mean, obviously, I think they'll pick up some people finally, just to make sure, because mainly just because they have to, right? Um, you're going to have to secure something so much to the point where you're going to have to acquire it just to make sure that Microsoft doesn't even have the opportunity to buy it. Um, unless, like I said, unless there was some sort of alliance, but that, like I said, that was a dream for me, mainly just
Mhm.
because I don't mind any of these other companies that are on the block remaining third party. I would just prefer, I want them protected. I don't want this acquisition war, you know?
Mm,
Um,
Too late. It's already happening.
no, no, I mean, I get that, right? But I'm saying I would prefer some form of protection from it even happening, so that these companies could remain third party, right? Which is ironic because a lot of people on the green team believe that everybody on PlayStation just wants PlayStation to own everything. So they think, oh well, in that case, I like Xbox, so I want Xbox to own everything. And it's like, no, that's not the case. I don't want any of them to own a lot of this stuff. I want these companies to make what they have with who they have, at their disposal for first party, and then assist things accordingly in the third party space, and move accordingly and leave well enough alone, But if we can't be that, then I think the reality is PlayStation at least has to acquire someone else. So I think that's you'll see that.
Who are they gonna go for? Do you think?
I mean, personally, I think despite them being hit or miss, uh, I still think Square is the obvious thing that they should secure. Mainly just because they have a lot of major titles, and I think PlayStation could clean up those misses. I think PlayStation is perfect for them because PlayStation is really good at curating against um, releasing, at least via track record, releasing a lot of bad games, right? I'm not saying they're perfect. They released Destruction All Stars. So, I mean, that PlayStation misses sometimes too, but I think they could help them clean that up and focus on the good games that they make and not all this weird movement that Square does. Focus on those good 2D HD games that have been thriving. Focus on Final Fantasy and the big AAA titles they make, and just really make them an efficient beast that they should be the way that they were when they were SquareSoft and not Square Enix. Um, so I think that's probably the
Mm.
biggest one. I think the one that would hurt the others the most though would be
CD
Capcom.
Projekt Red.
Well, no, I think it would be Capcom because Capcom makes a lot of games that a lot of them like, mainly Resident Evil, right? Resident Evil, Street Fighter, um, and there's a couple other games and stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
just by the sheer amount of games or IPs that Capcom makes that they claim to like, whether or not that's actually the case, I don't know because clearly the buying potential isn't doesn't really reflect that. When the Xbox accounts for less than like 7% or something of the revenue for Capcom overall. I think it's pretty reflective of some people lying about how much they love certain games. Um, but yeah, I think actually the combination of Square Enix and CD Projekt Red is what PlayStation would really need. That would secure and kind of corner a specific market in reverse to what Microsoft has, because with Microsoft having Bethesda and Obsidian, that secures that specific type of Western RPG. And I mean, honestly, I think either someone who has exceeded or at least matched up in a different Western RPG is CD Projekt Red. They are an incredible studio, which would help Sony get rid of that deficiency um, in at least first party for a company capable of releasing something incredible in that space. I think if Sony does get them though, it would be a deal similar to like Bungie, where they would still their games would still release on PC, and I say that mainly because CD Projekt Red is a lot like Bethesda, where they were a PC studio development studio first and foremost. So I think that's what they'll continue to do and continue to be. But I think PlayStation bringing them in house could just strengthen them even more than they already are now, and just take it to the next level. Um, Alongside, like I said, alongside Square, I think they would need both of those. And I don't think they should have any opposition. But whether or not they're for sale is another question, because CD Projekt Red has fiercely talked about remaining independent, which is also fine by me. So yeah, I think those are
Mm.
definitely the biggest ones.
But they are publicly traded, so it's entirely possible.
They are. They are. Obviously, the other one is I say that PlayStation specifically should secure, mainly just because Xbox has been a little too buddy buddy with them lately. But I know they're a little more complicated.
Sega.
Is Sega, yeah,
Yeah.
but I know they're complicated because they're into toys and a bunch of other stuff. So it gets really messy when you try to purchase someone like Sega. I'm just
Well,
saying for that.
not
So
necessarily, because do think Sega has divested some of their side activities not that long ago, which was some people were speculating that might indicate, yeah,
to get
they
ready to get
thought
purchased.
Microsoft, but I think it's more likely that Sony is gonna purchase them. And for me, it will be fine because I love my Yakuza games, so
Hmm.
I don't want them to get into Phil's greasy hands.
Yeah, I think PlayStation is perfect to preserve the best of what Sega does.
Yeah,
Um, like you said, the Yakuza games, Judgment, um, and especially obviously what Atlas does.
yeah,
I just don't think Xbox has the mindset to deal with that. I don't think they can handle that. I think they would fumble the bag 120%. I don't want that anywhere near them, because that would just ruin franchises that I'm in love with, over the years. And I know PlayStation fully understands that and has a history with those franchises. So really, this is about just honestly preserving the best, um, some of the best games in the industry that I've loved over the years, and that like you said, you've loved as well. So it's not a list war for us over here. We're trying to preserve some of the most amazing games that we've gotten to experience over the years, and we don't want to see that destroyed. As opposed to some people on the other side that are just like Game Pass and give me everything, and I don't want you to have it, and I want to have it. Like it's not about that.
Game Pass, eh? Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass, Game Pass.
Yeah, it's
yeah. But then
yeah.
it's definitely gonna fuck up gaming just because games need to be made to fit that model. So they won't have an incentive to make AAA blockbuster games that are what I would call one and done. They want to have constant stream of games, which for some reason they still are unable to do because their own studios fuck all the show for. So I have no real um, hope that they would be able to manage those studios. And the thing is, like you also said, it's not just a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to produce those games, but also are people going to stay, right? If people are going to
Mm-hmm.
like, you can tell me whatever the fuck you want that Shinji Mikami is retiring or doesn't know what he planned or whatever, but you're not telling me that this acquisition hasn't had any part in that. That we've seen that there are people are dissatisfied with Bethesda. People got laid off there. I don't think he's that happy being part of Microsoft and being part of that Game Pass strategy. So I'm pretty sure that he's sort of probably more things played a role, but that definitely had one of the reasons why.
Money talk, bullshit walk, weeb.
Yeah, and again, there's also like imagine that, like I said, imagine that he gets picked up by Sony, by PlayStation. Imagine that he's starting a new studio, and Sony's gonna fork the bill or whatever. And yeah, give us an exclusive, right? I mean, these opportunities will also present themselves with
Mm.
critical people walking and starting their own studios and uh, you know can be picked up. Like everybody wants to work for PlayStation. That's the thing. Like everybody's excited for that because they know the work culture in terms of game development that's present there and how they like these studios, the first party studios are competing with each other. They're in a friendly way and also working with each other and they're trying to one up each other by just delivering great quality. I mean, who wouldn't want to work there? Purely as a creative, you would want to work there because
Mm.
that's place where they give you the adequate funding to actually make the games that you want to make. They allow you to make them. They give you the best guidance and the best management possible. So it's certain. Of course, it will have certain flaws, but in the end, it's probably the best place you can be, and without having a third party publisher breathing down your neck and asking you to put in microtransactions or whatever just so they can hit their targets. Like you know that's the place they want to be at, and I'd say that Microsoft is. That's also one reason why they're buying shit because they know people don't want to fuck with Microsoft that way, and then they're still, but they're going to cause a certain exodus there. of people leaving and wanting to, either get picked up by Sony or going independent. So it's not going to go the way I think they're at least the fanboys are hoping it's going to go. It's this race is, it's not like the end of it, right? Even if like if this deal is going to go through, uh, there's so much that's gonna happen, so much that can happen, and like I said, I agree with your picks, Nate. I definitely think that those are likely targets. Uh, Maybe even throwing Konami,
Mm-hmm.
if, if that's a possibility. I mean, certainly Sony would be able to better utilize those IPs than Konami is at the
Yep.
moment.
Agreed.
So, but I definitely think that's going to be the strategy. Like, yeah, I mean, in terms of Western developers, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at if you really want to directly compete with Call of Duty, and the only IP you could get is GTA, so you would have to acquire Take Two, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's like I think they could in terms of like um, money. I mean, people saying that Sony can afford them. Of course they can. I mean, uh, there have been so many acquisitions in the history of acquisitions. Companies buying literally companies that are bigger than they are because guess what? You can fucking borrow money. That's how this works. So they can, of course, if they wanted to. The question is, do they want to? And is it uh, but yeah, that's also kind of the effect. Like with Activision getting bought, um, it's possible that the other third-party publishers are going to look for Sony or for somebody else, like Tencent or whatever, to uh, insulate themselves from getting bought themselves, and they might fear that Microsoft is going to be able to push their Game Pass future, which they all saying like if they had the choice, they wouldn't put their games day and date in there. And this looks like Microsoft is trying to sort of force them in, like, hey, Call of Duty is in there, so why isn't your game in there, right? I mean, everybody has Game Pass because Call of Duty is in, and they're gonna be afraid they're gonna be forced to put their games in Game Pass, because Xbox is gonna be a relevant platform, and it's going to be the only place where you can put your games. And if you want to, have people actually play your games on Xbox, and that's not the future they want. And if you get acquired by Sony, well, that's something's never going to fucking happen, and they're never going to put their games in Game Pass. So that's also a possible consequence that these other major third-party publishers might be more keen uh, to be acquired by somebody else.
Mm, I have a question. Which um, what if? No. So here's the thing. How long before PlayStation makes their move? Do you think? Because
Um,
if it
they're already making their moves, but soon uh, as soon as there's an outcome for uh, well, say the CMA's made their official ruling, and the FTC lawsuit result are in. That's when they're gonna announce their next big steps, right? Because they're not gonna jeopardize it. Well, to be fair though, with the let's say the FTC, like the lawsuit is already there, so they don't have to convince the FTC. And the only thing that they might be cautious of is, okay, we don't want to give Microsoft any ammunition in their court case where they're going to say, hey, look, Sony had just acquired, this studio or that publisher or whatever. So I'd say that they're going to sit on that as long as they can.
um gotcha. So Prince said something. Shout out to Prince. He said that PlayStation was in the wrong for depending on third parties. Is that fair statement to make, or
So this is the one of the few times I've completely and utterly disagreed with Prince because Microsoft depended on the same fucking company.
Yeah.
That's a very hypocritical, ridiculous statement. And they're still depending on them more now than ever because they're trying to purchase them for that regard. So no, that is an extremely hypocritical statement because the entire industry, including PC, depended on that company and all other third-party companies to do exactly what they've been doing this entire time. And Microsoft is just trying to remove that or take that off the table. And like I said, that's not unheard of because like I said, that's been what Microsoft does all the time. That's the whole acquisition for Discord where they tried to purchase Discord. Again, a competitor to something they want to do or something that someone that is doing something they wish they could do, they buy them. This is what they do. This is why I said I don't like Microsoft. Not Xbox, Microsoft, the parent company and the
Hmm.
tactics they've employed over the years. Whenever Microsoft cannot do it them damn selves, they purchase the competition because they've always relied on the war chest that being the sole provider of the world's most popular operating system has afforded them, and things like Microsoft Office, which businesses rely on. And they use that war chest to just purchase things left, right, and center. And the only way to stop them is regulators. So, yeah, so no, that is a completely unbelievably hypocritical statement because they've depended on it just as much as everyone else. And PlayStation, if anything, PlayStation depended on them less by constantly developing, a reason to purchase them outside of a third party. Microsoft depended on them more heavily because their first party lineup was fucking trash 90% of the time. So, yeah, that statement is 100% in full disagreement from me.
Yeah, I also don't know what he means. Does he mean that Sony should have become like Nintendo and rely heavily on the first party? Does he mean that they should have bought, other studios, third party studios and publishers and made them their own? Because like I would assume that he means being like Nintendo, but he's saying it like that's so easy, and that like they haven't tried. Like look at the lineup they have. Look at the pedigree and the quality of their first party studios. If they could only rely on those studios, they would. I mean, of course, you would want to be able to just solely rely on your own studio and just have the third parties, bring their games in because they see how many people are playing on that platform and they have to release their games there because that's where the gamers are. But it's not that simple. I mean, and if there's a very popular third party game like Call of Duty, there of course you're gonna rely on that. Of course you're gonna want to get all the perks and want to draw people, use that to draw people into your platform as being the place to be to play that game. That's how it works. I mean that yeah. I mean this is a very weird statement as if it's that simple, as if they didn't think of that. Like, I mean, I think I know what you mean with Prince. Like I said, I also generally agree with him, but this is sort of speaking more like a casual observer or a casual fan than somebody who actually knows the business. And I'm not claiming that I know the ins and outs of Sony or Microsoft whatsoever. I mean, I've worked in corporate, so I kind of understand how they operate, but I mean, it's not rocket science in that sense. I mean, that's how the business works, and not everybody is Nintendo, not everybody is Microsoft, not everybody is Sony, and then they're just doing what they're best at. And now we've seen a shift there because yeah, Microsoft is literally money hatting, something that they were accusing Sony of,
Mm-hmm.
and well, and now we're here. And now we're going to see if the deal goes through, we're going to see further consolidation. And well, in the end, um, I think we will of course always do Warsaw with consolidation, and the only thing, yeah, we only hope we indeed have, like I said, maybe the shake-up is going to be there to redistribute, where the talent is, and they're gonna leave and form their own studios, and because that's always what the thing is, right? Because the entire indie scene was thriving because there is a market outside of the big publishers and the big studios, and um, in like that like companies like EA have a proven track record of acquiring studios and closing them, and the talent moves elsewhere, and they found their own studios. And the only sad thing is, yeah, that they're generally, they don't have access to something that an iconic IP that they made, and they will be forced to use their talents to make something maybe similar, but it's never going to be the real thing. But nothing lasts forever either. I mean, I they plenty of Halo fans probably, part of them hope that the franchise died, when Bungie left, because what they're doing with now, that's just disrespectful, and if a franchise needs to die, it needs to die, right? There's plenty of franchises that have died. I mean, like like, for example, Uncharted. I mean, I'm perfectly fine if they're never making any Uncharted ever again. I mean, it's a great franchise, but you don't have to keep on milking that same franchise, because there's only so much you can do, and so much until development studio gets burned out of it and just wants to do something else, and they're gonna see creative dearth, and they're not gonna uh, make anything that's fun to play anymore. And if done, they'll have there's only so many set pieces you can do. There's only so many treasures you can find. In the end, you need to move on to something else. That's why that's how you also get great new IPs that
Mhm.
everybody wants, because talented people will keep on making games, and make things that they're proud of, and excited for, and that will excite us.
Okay.
For some slight clarification, what he was mainly talking about was trying to say that they were basically wrong for depending on third party to basically shore up like the first person shooter genre. But again, I still disagree with it and still say it's hypocritical because even Microsoft has still depended heavily on Call of Duty, so much in fact to the point where they want to spend $70 billion acquiring the bitch, because they realize how important it is, and the fact that they, who supposedly have this massive reputation for being, the greatest first party multiplayer developer on the planet, with like two games, one of which they didn't even make themselves. They bought it, and then it's been worse ever since they bought it anyway. Which being Gears. Um, Halo hasn't even usurped Call of Duty over the years. So without Call of Duty, uh, Xbox would have been, you know, half the console it was damn near anyway, because they heavily depended on third party to begin with. So again, I still disagree, because people are on this whimsical thought process that like if PlayStation would have just kept developing a first party FPS, that they would have just magically created something that competed with COD, and that's bullshit. Because it's
I
just not that simple.
I fuck with Brent, cool dude, but I can't believe he made such a statement.
Yeah, dude, it's like I said, it's entirely hypocritical because, like I said, they both depended on it just the same. Microsoft had a third party deal in place with them to get maps 30 days in advance when that was a big deal. And Microsoft used to have the MLG. So if you wanted to play pro, guess what you had to do? You had to play on Xbox, because when you played professionally, when you were asked to play for the team, you would have to play on an Xbox. Like Microsoft had all these deals in place. They've depended on it no different than anybody else. The only person who stopped depending on this stuff and that was a choice they made consciously by the way they
Nintendo.
exactly. But Nintendo did that consciously, knowing that their entire the way that their entire business structure works largely just depends on them and the games that they make, right? Like nothing, you'd be lucky if a third party game released exclusively on uh a Nintendo platform and you sold 3 million. You'd be lucky. But yet at the same time, when Kirby comes out, that motherfucker gonna sell like 10 million, over time and not drop below, 47.99, and Mario's gonna automatically sell, 20 million, and Pokemon's gonna automatically sell 30 million. And you see what I'm saying? Like they've been not depending on third party in the slightest, but that is a unique position that Nintendo has been able to put themselves in, being one of the first um, in the entire console market, right? They've got a history so deep that people 50 plus years old who may not even game the way that we do anymore still will be like, man, if they do want a game, I should pick up, Zelda and Mario. That I know because I talk to these people who don't game for work and other instances where they don't really game like that, and they still have this view of gaming where it's Mario, Zelda, Pac-Man, all these historic franchises. So if they do even ordain to come near anything, they're going to pick up a Nintendo platform, and they're only going to pick up those games or Animal Crossing or these other things that are synonymous with coming from Nintendo. So yeah, like Nintendo create has the unique space to do that, but the other two do not, right? Like that's just the shape of the gaming industry. But that's what I said. So that yeah, just 120% disagree with that. 1,000% disagree with that. That is, they both depended on it. Like I said, just as much. And Microsoft creating their own first party or buying, because like I said, they bought Gear, so they really don't even have that many, to be honest. But creating their own first party FPS or competitive shooting franchises, which they don't even have that many, have still failed to garner the reception, and they've had to depend on third party to deal with this anyway. And this is further solidified by the data that you can see from both consoles, which I posted not too long ago, that show the most played games on each console are damn near the same. It's Apex Legends, Fortnite, Call of Duty, so on and so forth. So yes, they both heavily depend on that. So saying that like Sony did more than Microsoft or something, or that they were wrong for it, is bullshit, because it's literally equal. They both depend on it exactly the same. It's just now that Microsoft is doing the one thing they, like I said, that they always do when they know the competition, something is in the middle that helps them both thrive. Microsoft's goal is to always take it off the board so that they can own it, so that they can remove that as a competitive advantage, or a competitive parallel rather, because it's not here nor there for either one of them, despite the marketing deal that people think is some magical stick, like it, because it's not. But yeah, that's how I feel about that.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly. It's not like they haven't tried, like with Killzone with Resistance.
Resistance.
Yeah.
And guess what? I liked both of those games. Hell, I loved
Yeah, me too.
Resistance. I was hoping Resistance would make a comeback. I was like, man, and I actually played the multiplayer for one or two of the Resistances, and I actually thought it was pretty fun. But it just didn't catch fire like crazy, and
Yeah.
you can't do anything about that. But they made a great game. Like I actually really liked all the Resistances. So yeah, like people saying they didn't try or they didn't do anything to kind of do, that's bullshit. No, PlayStation just saw it wasn't really working. And this is another thing. Somebody brought up SOCOM, and I'm like, I don't know where people remember SOCOM, like as this whimsical, masterful franchise that just needed a little more love, and it could have been amazing, and it could have just took over the world. No, motherfucker. SOCOM was incredibly niche. Um, the only reason I even played SOCOM on the PS2 is because I thought it was cool that I could talk through the headset and talk to talk to the NPCs in the game and make them do stuff. Bravo team, move to alpha, execute. Like that was such a cool feature. Like I love that. Like that was what I liked about SOCOM. So when the last SOCOM came out and it was online only, that wasn't even what SOCOM was about. And then even then, yeah, a few people I know really really loved it, but it failed because it was very niche. Like only a few people really got into it, and then a few people were mad that they closed it down, but it just wasn't successful. So no, SOCOM is not some masterful franchise that just needed a little bit of love and it would have just took over the world. No, it was super fucking niche. And it's the same reason why I told people, I was like, it's the same reason why Battlefield will never be as popular as Call of Duty, because it's not as casual, right? It has a specific shtick to it. And if you don't like that shtick or that thing that Battlefield is famous for, you're not gonna like it. I've never liked Battlefield. Not a single one of them. The only thing I liked in Battlefield was the campaign, and you know what they did with that? They took it away. So yes, even when the most recent Battlefield was like $5, I still didn't buy it because I'm not gonna waste my time playing a game I don't want to play. So yeah, like people have this weird, whimsical, weird hindsight, nostalgic view of games, and I'm like, bro, none of those games were ever that good. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, they were never that good, and they were never even, you know, 20% as popular as Call of Duty. Like, it just is what it is. And the only other games that have even gotten or garnered a mass amount of popularity, they had to go free to play and invent an entirely different genre to even compete. And then even then Call of Duty added that to the spectrum, because like I said, they did the same thing World of Warcraft did. When something gets out there, you just add it to your franchise when you're the big dick on the block, you know what I mean? I'll just take some of my money and make that too. And what did they do? They made that portion of the game what? Free to play. So I'm going to match you with my own game while I also create the game that I always make that I also sell for $70. So yeah, no, it's bullshit.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Shout out to Stage. And yeah, again, Prince, cool dude, truly cool dude, but he missed with this one. Viper, you have anything to say about this topic?
He's not
I
here.
think Viper
Viper had to
is
leave.
in here.
Oh,
Yeah, he said be
I
right back.
thought
The
he
wife.
came back.
No, he said the wife or whatever. So I think he might not be able to make it back.
Oh, okay. Then let's get to our outro then. Um, where people can find you?
You can find me on Twitter as Sweep Sheriff at Blue Rhizome, and on YouTube as Sweep Sheriff, formerly known as Blue Rhizome, and Other Nation.
Gotcha, gotcha. Nate, where people can find you?
Yeah, just on Twitter at the real Nate as usual, keeping it gaming, no frauding. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, man. Also, the girls ain't here, so Otter Nation.
Yay.
Uh, as for me, people can find me on Carbo_Jihab and Game Vitamin G podcast every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to Kofi, he was here. And yeah, shout out to everyone who came through. Shout out to the missing people. And yeah, see you next week.
Peace.
Oh, also shout out to N8 for hosting.
No doubt.